This is the web series For the Love of BIM, promoting Barbados, everything Bajan Canadian, and everything Canadian Bajan. Welcome to another episode in the web series For the Love of BIM. I am your host, Consul General Sonia Marvel Carter. Today we will be featuring the New Haven Funeral Centre and the two young black women running this business, Shelley Challenger and Shari Yearwood. I will be having a discussion with Shelley and Shari about how they got started in this field and their journey to building a successful black business in Ontario. Joining us also will be the president of the Barbados Association of Funeral Directors, Mr. Ian Griffith, who will share some insights on the field from the Barbados Funeral Directors' perspective. But before we get to the feature, you know we have to go to the birthday shoutouts. And it really is only fitting after all to celebrate the beginning, as our feature will be about the end. We start our birthday shoutouts with Sharon, who celebrated 50 on March 9th. Congratulations on reaching this milestone, and greetings are coming from your friends, family, and all of us in the diaspora. Hope you had a blast, Sharon. Next, we shout happy birthday to Pearson, who celebrated on March 11th. We pray blessings on you, Pearson, and these greetings are coming from your friends and family both here and in Barbados. Next up is Akila. Happy birthday, Akila, and greetings are coming from your entire family circle both here and in Barbados. The birthday shoutouts continue with my cousin Aderonke, who celebrated on March 11th as well. I know you had a great day, and these greetings are coming from the entire family circle in the USA, Sierra Leone, Barbados, and of course from me here in Canada. Birthday greetings are also extended to Ambassador Ian Walcott Skinner, who will be celebrating on March 15th. And Ian is Barbados' ambassador in Panama. We know you are far from home without a big Barbadian diaspora, but birthday greetings are being extended from here in Canada as well as your family and friends in Barbados. And our final birthday greeting for today goes out to Victor, our guitar-playing musician, who celebrates on March 16th. Hope you have an enjoyable day, Victor. And these greetings are coming from your family and friends both here and in Barbados. Maybe Peggy will sing happy birthday to you. I now welcome Shelley Challenger, who is the Vice President of the New Haven Funeral Centre, and Shari Yearwood, who is the Managing Director of the Funeral Centre. Welcome, ladies, and tell us a little bit about yourselves and how you got into this area of mortuary science, or as you say, funeral services.
My name is Shelley Challenger. I'm the Vice President of the New Haven Funeral Centre in Mississauga, Ontario. That's just minutes from the Toronto airport. I've been in the industry for about 22 years, and I love being a funeral director. It's my passion. So funeral services is my life.
And I'm Shari Yearwood. I'm the Managing Director at New Haven Funeral Centre. I too have been licensed for about 22 years. Shelley and I went to a college together. I hail from a strong Barbadian background. Both of my parents are from Barbados. My love for funeral service really started as a child, going to funerals with them. I was always interested in going to funerals and looking at the deceased.
Tell us then about New Haven. So how did New Haven Funeral Centre come about, and how did you start this business, and give us a bit about New Haven?
I would say in November of 2017, we opened our doors, New Haven Funeral Centre, and it really, we opened it up because of the community. People just wanted to express their traditional cultures within an environment that came from people that could understand their background. And with us opening up New Haven, it's a safe haven for those who want to, play their soca music, want to play their reggae, want to speak in their dialect. That is so comforting to families, and for us to be able to understand them and not have to ask them, what is that? We know that because it is our background as well.
Tell us then, Shari, give us an idea of what are the services you offer. Do you Is it something special? Do you do anything different than other funeral centers? Give us some information about New Haven and what you offer.
So what's special about us, what we do different is being us is a big part of it. And by us, I say it's almost that, you know, being able to look at each other and knowing that it's okay to want to have music that you can dance to at the funeral service, wanting to have a repast or a reception after the service that really encapsulates your loved one by having a dinner menu. You know, we really focus on personalization, things that our families will interest them for our community specifically. That's what really makes us different. We all hail from West Indian backgrounds. We have Antiguans, Grenadians, Barbadians, Jamaicans. We're all first generation Canadians. So we have very strong West Indian backgrounds. So it's being able to know that when that mom or dad comes through the door, we're going to take care of them like our own mom and dad.
As young Black women in this area, what has your experience been as two young women?
Well, Shari and I went to school. She alluded that we went to college together, and we went to college with 4 Black women, which was the most they had ever had in the history at Humber College. And that is the school that we go to become funeral directors. And so we were also in an environment that it took a long time for the Black students to get internships because of our color. Because we are Canadian born, people didn't realize what our background was until we showed up for the interview. Okay. And showing up for that interview, sometimes our interviews were cut short because they were not accustomed to seeing people that looked like us in the funeral industry in Canada. So we've broken through a lot of barriers over the years where it was a male-dominated industry and now has become heavily woman-dominated industry. There's still not a lot of women leading in the funeral industry. Shari and I are a rare entity. However, it is something that I can say that we are making change in the industry. And are there challenges? Absolutely, because for one, yes, we are women, and then we are Black women trying to make our way in this industry that is not used to seeing people like us in this type of position.
Funeral service, when we started out, there was far and few. As she said, it took me an extra year to find an internship, and that was purely because of me being a Black female. You know, in a male-dominated industry at the time. 22 years ago, it was male-dominated. And, you know, seeing what, you know, Shelley alluded to, they hear you speak on the phone as being a first-generation Canadian. Our parents had very high aspirations for us going to school. So, you know, there was always that emphasis on speaking well. So they would hear you on the phone and hear that you can speak well. But when you show up at the door, not realizing they were speaking to a young Black woman.
Wow.
Right. So those were a lot. It was a big barrier in terms of finding an internship so that I could go forward with my career. And even once I was in the field, there was still the day-to-day barriers because you would always only be the only Black woman in the funeral home. So that alone, you were different. You were always different at the lunch table. You were always given the grunt jobs, right? You know, your size would, you know, if you were smaller, you were given the jobs that they almost thought you couldn't do just to try to break you, to I say test you, right? Because it's always that test that for me, I'm going to overcome, right? And again, that for me is what coming from strong parents, strong background is, that having that strong foundation. So Shelley and I both had that. We grew up in that home where both our mother and fathers encouraged us in whatever we wanted to do. And that made for us being these strong women that we are today. My father was a very strong proponent for women.
So know that you were running a funeral home yourself or funeral center. So do you do a lot of internships? Do you get a lot of interns coming through your doors?
We do. We have a strong passion for our youth. And I say that because we are a younger staff. We are, if you look at the makeup of our staff, we are a younger staff. We believe in our youth. We work with a lot of the local high schools, and from the local high schools, we now because of their work with us at the funeral center, they've decided to choose a career in funeral service. I have a young lady who is with us who never thought she would be with us. She just came on a tour when she was in high school. And in fact, she started working with us when she was only 17 years old. And, she would just work on the door, and she gradually got her foot in, and she's currently a student at Humber and will be our next intern. Oh, wow. So, we try to mentor them from young. A lot of our young female and male staff love that we are young females leading the business, so that always is something for them to look up to as well.
What do you do at the community level?
So Shari and I participate in a lot of community grassroots programs, and it's even where we encourage even film producers to come in and film docudramas in our facility. We go to schools and mentor at the schools. We participate in panels, as well as our community business organizations. We're very involved, and we are not just involved from a distance. We actually participate in that, in these organizations, and encourage people to come to our facility by, even if they come for tours or we do seminars, we encourage people to come and meet us, because I think a lot of people have that, a lot of people have heard myths over the years where they're frightened to meet funeral directors, or they don't know what a funeral director is like, where we want them to come and meet us in our place. And then they can feel comfortable, because we have a nice and 30,000 square foot 5-star facility, and you've been there before. And but we have this nice facility that we want people to come in and see, because we don't want it to be that people are intimidated by coming into our facilities. Yes, we are certified shipping specialists at New Haven Funeral Center. So, which means that we can do end-to-end services. And when a family does come in and state that they want to ship their loved one home, it's a matter of us, finding out which funeral home are they using in the receiving country. And once they give us all their information, then we are in contact with that funeral home in the receiving country. And we're obtaining permits and documentation that will satisfy both governments to ship their loved one home. It is quite a smooth process through us. And again, because we ship over 10 to 15 times a month to the Caribbean, we do ship worldwide, but we do ship on a regular basis. So it has now come to a point where funeral homes in the Caribbean islands are calling us and sending us referrals. And also, if somebody happens to just pass away on vacation and they're Canadian, they're coming back home. So we have really strengthened our relationships with the Caribbean and all the funeral homes within those Caribbean islands because of our strong shipping knowledge.
It was at this time that Ian Griffith, who is the president of the Barbados Association of Funeral Directors and the owner of Earl's Funeral Home in Barbados, joined our discussion. I asked Ian his views on the complexity of repatriating a loved one from the Barbados perspective.
Well, it's quite interesting that you have brought this question now at this time. And only last week, I realized we have two bodies coming from the United States, and we really there have been some changes in the process. And these changes have actually surprised different homes in New York. I'm speaking of New York right now. We haven't had Canada, but in terms of New York, whereas that there seem to be a lot more detailed documentation has to go in to actually getting the flights. Some airlines have minimized in terms of their. I think you have to book actually your flights right now for cargo shipments of repatriating human remains. You have to go through a lot more paperwork right now. I don't know if the same thing applies in Canada, but only 2 weeks ago now, that has something that has come up now since, I believe, since COVID.
Next, we spoke about the collaboration between the Humber College and New Haven Funeral Centre in Canada and the University of the West Indies and Ian Griffith in Barbados.
Because of our connections and our work in the Caribbean, Humber actually approached us to partner to look at bringing a formalized program to the Caribbean. And it would be Humber in partnership with the University of West Indies. And it's really to bring a formalized program to the Caribbean so that Caribbean students have access to the program closer to home. As it stands right now, I know a lot of students, and Ian can weigh in eventually, a lot of students will leave the Caribbean to study in Canada, the US, but not everyone's situation can suit that. Right. So it's really to bring a formalized program closer to home. Or closer to the Caribbean, rather. There are a lot of skilled, unskilled directors, embalmers in the Caribbean. And it's just really to bring that formalized programming and training to them by way of Humber. So Humber approached us because of our strong relationships in various islands in the Caribbean, so that we would be the funnel and the gateway to setting up schooling to certify students in mortuary science. So they would end up with a certification, a certificate in funeral service, as we call it in North America, or mortuary science.
You are watching an episode of For the Love of BIM.
You were a part of the team and the meetings when they had them there last February. So tell us, what is from your perspective, how important would this be for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, a mortuary science certification?
I'm glad to be a part of the team, and thanks to Shari and Shelley, and the whole team that came down from Canada last year. I was honored, really, because this started for me back in 2003, where I had approached the University of West Indies with the hope of having a joint. I looked at it from the medical faculty. But at that time in 2003, the university felt that, the scope and the feasibility of a funeral service education program was not really in fitting with the university at that time in 2003. So when I was approached last year, I was like, yeah, this is the dream come true. So I really was really honored to really jump on board, because having the opportunity to have an educational program in the funeral industry in the Caribbean, and after hearing also that they were in Jamaica, I have some connections to Jamaica who had already told me about Humber University's college at Montego Bay. I felt like this would be a great thing for this side of the Caribbean, and it would kind of unite the Caribbean in the funeral industry education, because over the years, it has always been taught that if you want to get into funeral business, you have to go to the United States, Canada, or England to be trained. And some persons are not really, in a financial position to do that. So having the opportunity now here in the Caribbean, it would be a great benefit to the industry. I remember Shari had also said about those persons. We have a lot of skilled, unskilled persons in the industry, and not just in Barbados, but throughout the Caribbean as well, where they've trained or they've worked alongside a trained person over the years, or they've worked at a funeral home for a number of years. But in terms of the actual education, being educated in the practices of the industry was lacking. And that is my area of concern, because in Barbados of itself, unlike Jamaica, I have a friend in Jamaica. He always tells me, you know, St. Catherine and Jamaica have less funeral homes than the entire Barbados, and St. Catherine is bigger than Barbados of itself. And that's one parish in Jamaica. And Barbados has a lot of funeral homes. The most, it's the densest island in the Caribbean where it comes to funeral business. And we do have a lot of funeral homes in Barbados. The process of being a funeral director in Barbados, and I cut no corners in this, it needs to be worked on. And that meeting we had last year with the representatives from Humber and with Shelley and Shari there, with the CMO, really brought to light the really need to have some sort of, you know, regulatory or proper thing. And I think the whole idea of the school is going to bring this into effect.
You are watching an episode of For the Love of BIM.
So, Shelley and Shari, what would be your advice in terms of preparation? People usually think this is very morbid and they wait until a loved one has died. And I know people have a lot of thoughts about that. But in terms from your point of view and from your vantage point as directors of a funeral center, what is your advice in terms of preparation?
Well, we always, of course, help families at their time of need. It's the pre-planning that tends to always scare people. And we find that often in our culture. But I think if we change our mindset and think of it as empowering ourselves, we plan for retirement, we plan for our children's futures. This is a part of your children's plan, right? So it's really a mindset shift, because if you're planning for this, you can plan and put the appropriate funds aside, and it's really empowering. It's your legacy. So we always encourage any of our families, anyone we come in contact, to pre-plan. Put your wishes down, write down what you want. It's always sad for us to see someone who maybe didn't have friends and passes away. They're found somewhere, they pass away, and then there's no one to take care of them. It's sad, and it happens, right? So even the only way to make that not happen is to pre-plan. Yes, we don't want to think about it, but if we can plan for everything else in life, we can plan for this too, or at least start to think about it. And we try to have those conversations with the community. We do Facebook and Instagram lives where we talk to various people throughout the community about their experiences, or even just to info share about these types of topics, to get it out there more often, and just so it feels like a casual conversation that we can have from people that look like us, just to kind of break it down. We know we don't like to talk about it, but we do try to just keep having that conversation.
And just to add on to what Shari said, there's also many affordable options for pre-planning. So, you know, for any budget, our pre-planning specialists can work out something that is suitable and affordable for each and every person. Everybody's situation is unique and different. And I know some families get, you know, intimidated because they think, you know, funerals cost so much money. But the thing is, if you're doing it over so many years, it can be low monthly affordable payments, you know, and you can kind of just have that come out of your account and not have to worry about it, but know that you've locked in those prices at today's cost, and you might still have another 20, 30 years, but at least you're gaining the benefit of pre-arranging in the current year. So again, just it's budgeting, right? As Shari said, you know, you're preparing, but you're budgeting. It's a part of your budget. So when a funeral home is either closed or is going out of business, they have a time period where they would notify anybody who has pre-planned arrangements, prepaid arrangements with them. And they would notify them by phone, by letter or mail, to just advise them that, you know, the funeral home, this is the direction of the funeral home. Then at that time, you have an opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to move it to ABC Funeral Home at that time. If in fact now a funeral home closes and they couldn't get a hold of you, we are regulated by a governing body that protects any money that is prepaid for funerals. So no matter what, if a funeral home closes or somebody got up and left the business, your money is protected. We are obligated under our regulator to protect prepaid funds. In fact, funeral home funds are not held with the funeral home. By law, we can't hold them in our facility or in any of our bank accounts. They are held by third parties. So that's, again, another assurity that your money is protected because the funeral home doesn't have it in hand. What I would want people to know about New Haven is that we truly support our community and the businesses within our community. When we opened New Haven, it wasn't just opening, yes, to serve families for funerals. It was also to provide jobs to our vendors, our suppliers. We use people within our community and the Caribbean islands who help us with supplies. And I think that, again, strengthening that relationship, not just on a funeral level, but on a business level, on a community level, to build up our economy. So New Haven is about not just building ourselves, building those around us. We do not want to do this alone. We didn't get here by ourselves. We got here because of our community's support, and that's our give back to the community.
I would wish to thank Shelley and Shari for sharing their journey with us. And we would also like to thank Ian for his insights into this field from the Barbados Funeral Director's perspective. As Shelley and Shari shared with us, there is nothing morbid about planning for this eventuality because, as the saying goes, none of us can get out of this life alive. If you want to have more information, check out the New Haven Funeral Centre online via their website, www.newhavenfuneralcentre.com. Before I sign off for today, there are just a few notices and events I want to share with you. The Grant Morris Foundation is making an appeal to help raise funds towards the purchase of COVID-19 vaccines for Barbados, and you can donate by Interact e-transfer to info@grantmorrisfoundation.org. No amount is too small, and as Grant Morris Foundation is a registered charity in Canada, you can receive tax receipts for any donation over $25. Another organization called CANCARE, which is made up of visitors to Barbados and friends of Barbados, is also raising funds to assist people in Barbados with care packages and other essentials. The link to access their donation page will be shared in the description of this video. And professional photographer Dave Cox is affiliated with the organization CANCARE. I'm sure all of you are familiar with his Living Barbados magazine. You're also reminded to get your tickets for the upcoming Bring On the Spring event with entertainment by the legendary Red Plastic Bag, amongst others like Jan Morgan, Ricardo Keynes Douglas. The guest speaker will be Professor Andrew Downs, and your boy Kevin Carrington will be on the proverbial wheels of steel with Kathy Maloney as your MC for what promises to be a great evening. Don't forget to get your raffle tickets. Visit BarbadosCanadaFoundation.com for all the information. Next, we want you to save the date because Friday, April the 23rd, that's the night before they Bring On the Spring event, Team Barbados in Canada will be hosting a virtual event called We Gathering for Our Heroes, where we will celebrate not just Barbados' national heroes, but we will honor 10 of our unsung heroes. So listen out for more information on this and check our Facebook page for how you can nominate an unsung hero from your community. Well, that's all the time we have for today, folks. So permit me to wish you all a good weekend and continue to be peaceful and reflective during this Lenten season. If you are enjoying the web series, I encourage you to like the videos and click the subscribe button so that you will be alerted every time a new video is uploaded. And don't forget to share the episodes with your friends and family. And remember, let's continue to play our part to stop the spread of the COVID-19 virus. Stay safe.